Hey squad, welcome back to my channel. So if I had to go back in time and start my fitness journey all over again, there are so many things that I would do differently. So today I'm putting you ahead of the game. 10 things that I would do differently if I could start my fitness journey all over again. The first thing that I would do is stop comparing myself to other people. So when I first started my fitness journey back in 2017, I had a long list of like fitness influencers that I looked up to. I used to compare myself so much to other people. I used to look at how much they were lifting, how much work they were putting in, and then making myself feel as though I wasn't doing enough or I wasn't pushing myself enough, and feeling as though I had to push myself a lot harder than I could at the time. Basically comparing my chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 5. These people have probably put in 5-6 years into their own fitness journeys, and I'm just starting out. Truly, comparison is really the thief of joy, because when you compare yourself so much to other people, you lose out on yourself. You lose out on learning yourself. And also it makes you feel discouraged. It makes you feel as though you're not really doing enough. And the truth is, no two journeys are the same. People have different genetics, different timelines, different starting points, and comparing myself to other people just discouraged me from my own journey, like I said. And after being on my journey for almost a decade and just being in this space for such a long time, now I know that the only person that I should be comparing myself to is myself. Also knowing that progress happens at its own pace, and the best thing that I can do is stay consistent and trust the process. Next, I would also understand that rest is a part of the process and not a setback. This is actually really weird to say now, but in the beginning, I thought that resting meant that I was lazy. You know, the whole no pain, no gain, no days off. Like, I used to really pioneer that mindset. If I was not in the gym all the time, then that meant that I was lazy or that I wasn't going to see the results that I wanted. And it took me a while to really understand how muscle grows, and that rest and recovery was a big factor to growth. So I would push myself to work out every single day. But I learned the hard way that overtraining leads to burnout, exhaustion, and even slower results, because muscle doesn't grow when you're in the gym, when you're actually in the training and lifting phase. It grows while you rest and through recovery. So if I could go back, I would listen to my body, take rest days seriously, prioritize recovery just as much as I prioritized my workouts. Another thing I would have done differently, knowing what I know now, I would have started going to the gym sooner. I did start pretty young, but knowing how much strength training is beneficial, especially to a woman, I would have literally started going to the gym when I was like 17, 18 years old. I feel like I also would have gotten an earlier head start with like my fitness career. But I feel like I also did start at a good time. Like, I feel like 21, 22 is also like a really good age to start getting into the gym and start getting in shape. I already have almost 10 years down, and I'm also pretty thankful that I did start when I did start. And strength training not only helped me build muscle and like made me stronger, it's also made me a lot more confident, and it's improved not just my fitness, but my overall quality of life. It's improved my mentality. It's improved my discipline. I used to be one of the laziest people on the planet. Like, I literally had no drive. I had no passion. I had no real will to like do or be anything until I started going to the gym, and I realized that, listen, the way I push my body in the gym and the way I face challenges and like all of those heavy weights, and I can actually lift this and see progress. I transitioned all of that into my regular daily life. So I approached my life challenges in that way. I pushed myself a lot more when it came to like my business, and I focused a lot more. I had more structure. So that's why I feel like, knowing what I know now, if I could, I would have started a lot younger. I would have started a lot sooner. But like I said, I'm still grateful for when I did start, and better late than never. Next, I would have also stopped overcomplicating my workouts. In the beginning, I would add way too many exercises to my workout sessions. I was one of those people who thought that they needed to be doing 10, 11, 12 different exercises in one workout session just to see growth. But now I've learned that it's more about quality versus quantity when it comes to fitness, and more is not always better. And when I began to break down my training to my muscle groups, and I began to limit the number of exercises that I would do per session to 3, 4, 5 max, that is actually when I transformed my body. So in the beginning, I should have prioritized focusing on a few key compound exercises and a few isolation exercises and actually have gotten stronger with them. So this is a big one. One thing that I wish I would have done differently at the beginning was prioritize mobility exercises and just dynamic warm-ups and even just flexibility. Like, I really used to think that warming up was an option, and I never really did it for like the first 5 years of my training. I never really focused on, those dynamic warm-ups, whether I was working on my mobility. I was like, hey, I'm young, I'm lit, let's just jump into the workout. I paid the price after literally the first 5 years. I think like 2 years ago when I started developing like really bad knee pain. I couldn't squat heavy. Every single time that I would try to do a lunge or any lower body exercise, primarily like a leg press, I would feel really sharp pains in my knees. And then I began to focus on mobility and I began to warm up properly, and it improved my joint pain. And that is something that I feel like a lot of people neglect. They do not warm up properly. Now all of that has changed. I always make sure that I do a proper warm up before and after my workouts and just keep my joints and my muscles moving as they should. Now, when it comes to nutrition, I wish that I had prioritized eating protein right away. If I could go back in time, I would tell my younger self to eat more protein, girl. I was over there eating like a bird, wondering why my muscles weren't growing. You cannot build muscle without sufficient protein. So in the beginning, I wasn't eating nearly enough. I was not prioritizing protein, and I was always in and out, like losing weight, gaining a little bit of muscle, then losing it right away, because I just wasn't really prioritizing nutrition. And I didn't understand the whole protein aspect of it, how important it was. And when I did begin to incorporate more protein into my diet, when I began to use supplements like creatine and whey protein, that is when I really began to see growth. I learned that nutrition played a huge role in muscle development. So if I could go back, I would make sure that I prioritize protein with every meal and make sure that I was fueling my body properly and making sure that I was eating enough. Another thing I would do differently is to stop demonizing carbs, okay? I was one of those people who thought that carbs was the enemy, and in order for me to see progress, I had to remove carbs from my diet. So I used to avoid a lot of carbs. I would really drastically minimize how much rice I was eating. There were weeks where I would actually cut rice out of my diet. I didn't eat any bread. I still really don't eat bread now, but I used to really be very picky when it came to eating carbs because I felt like that was what was going to make me gain weight. But the truth is, carbs are fuel. They give you energy, they help you perform better in the gym, and it's also necessary for recovery. And cutting carbs out of my diet only made me feel more drained. And when I did reintroduce it back into my diet, I realized how much more energy I had and how much better my workouts actually felt. Another big mistake I made was cutting my calories way too low. I'm pretty sure that in the beginning I was eating about 1,200 calories a day. And that is why I lost so much weight after like the first few months of training. I don't know what it is, but a lot of people just assume that eating less is more. So when you eat less, then you see more results. And that is not the case. When you don't understand nutrition, that is how you think. And instead of learning how nutrition works and how to balance my diet, how to have my healthy fats, my healthy complex carbs, my protein, and all of that, how to really balance my macros, I didn't have that knowledge in the very beginning. So I used to restrict a lot, and it took a toll on my body. And I'm gonna put up some pictures. This was literally me after being in the gym for about 6 months. And I actually lost more weight during this period while I was training than before I started training. So I was even skinnier than before I started my fitness journey. So of course, along the way, I learned that eating enough food and not starving myself is really what supports muscle growth and what promotes fat loss. Now I focus on fueling my body as much as I can, as properly as I can, instead of trying to survive on the lowest calories possible. I would also accept that bodies change. In the very beginning, I used to think that, once you hit a certain goal, then it'll be difficult for your body to fluctuate. And that is not the case. A lot of people think that when they've trained up to a certain point and they have achieved a certain type of physique, then their body is going to stay in that shape forever. As long as you're alive, as long as you're eating, your body's going to fluctuate. You're going to have good periods. You're going to have periods where you look at your body and you're pinching every inch of your body, wondering where this fat came from and how this developed. And that is just how the body works. So I didn't really understand that weight fluctuates and that muscle grows and muscle also shrinks. And different phases of life come with different body compositions. And now I know that my body is supposed to change. And I also feel like as someone who has a really big platform in the fitness space, you're kind of expected to maintain a certain physique year round. And yes, I do maintain a pretty nice physique year round, but my weight fluctuates as well. Like there are times where I'm a lot leaner. Now I'm a lot heavier. And that's okay. So in the beginning, I didn't really understand that weight fluctuates and my body is going to change. And instead of stressing out about a certain weight or stressing about looking a certain way all the time, I now embrace the natural shifts that come with progress. Another thing, I would not have taken everything so seriously. Okay, I had thought that, my diet had to be perfect. My body had to be perfect. My training had to be perfect. I had to do everything perfectly and I would nitpick myself so much. And the truth is, fitness is also supposed to be fun. Like you're supposed to enjoy the journey. It's supposed to be sustainable. And the more you stress out about everything being right, the less enjoyable that journey becomes. So if I could go back, I would remind myself that consistency matters a lot more than perfection. I would also stop obsessing over clean eating. Okay, in the beginning, I thought that my meals had to be 100% like perfect. I cut out a lot of sauces. Sometimes I wouldn't even spice my chicken. I was one of those that was eating dry ass chicken breast, dry ass vegetables, because I felt that that's what I had to do. I felt like if my meals weren't 100% clean, then I was ruining my progress. And the obvious downside to that is that it made eating feel very restrictive and just completely unenjoyable. Like I didn't even look forward to eating. And oftentimes because I didn't look forward to eating, I would eat less or I would just binge. Eventually, I learned that balance is key. So I would eat nutritious foods a majority of the time while still allowing myself room to eat my favorite foods without feeling any guilt. So if I could go back, I would remind myself that fitness is a lifestyle and not a punishment. And that directly brings me into the next one, which is I would not be giving myself a cheat day. Like I would not dedicate an entire day to just eating rubbish. And there was no need for me to reward myself for good behavior. Like I'm not a dog. Like if I am craving a cookie on a random afternoon during the week, then I would have a cookie and not really feel bad about it. Next, I would focus on form over everything. There were times in the beginning that I didn't really used to care too much about my form. I used to do a lot of exercises, right? Sometimes when I go back and watch some of my old videos, I just have a laugh at myself. My form was horrible. And there were times where I used to focus more about how much I was lifting as opposed to how I was lifting. So form is so important. Now, I don't really care about proving a point. I'm a strong ass girl. And my focus now is more on my technique as opposed to how much heavy weights I'm pushing. Because when it comes down to it and I have to do it, I can lift really heavy. But for my progress and just my journey and to see that transformation, my form is over everything. Controlling my movements, making sure that I am controlling the weights and the weights are not controlling me. If I could go back, I would slow down, master my technique, master my form, and make sure that I was training smarter, not just training harder. Another key thing that I would have done differently in relation to my training is I would have started incorporating isolation movements into my workouts early on. So I used to do a lot of compound exercises, especially for my lower body, okay? Specifically legs here at this point. I used to just do squats, lunges, leg press for my legs. I never did hip thrusts. I never did like those Bulgarian split squats and, those unilateral exercises. I never did that like the first 2 years of my fitness journey. And I noticed that my legs were growing. So I was growing my hamstrings and my quads, but I didn't really have glute development. I didn't even know anything about isolation exercises until I started watching other trainers like on Instagram and YouTube. So that's one thing that I really wish that I started earlier on. And I feel like I would have developed my glutes a lot faster, or a lot sooner rather, if I had incorporated this training technique into my style. So that is where learning comes from, and always staying informed and educated. And there was a lot that I didn't understand about training in the beginning, but it was okay because it was the beginning, and now I know better. And yeah, but nonetheless, in the same breath, I was actually a pretty lucky girl because I did have a coach at the very beginning. And of course, no one knows everything. And there was a lot that he didn't put me through. And there was a lot that I had to learn on my own, because at the end of the day, every journey is specific to that person. But having a coach at the very beginning did save me a lot of unnecessary stress. It saves me from a lot of guesswork, and I kind of learned the game really quick early on, which a lot of people don't do. And so I had that to my advantage, and I'm always grateful for that. And the beauty of fitness is you literally learn as you go. There's a lot that I had learned in the beginning that now I've unlearned, and there's a lot that I'm still learning now, and I get to share my knowledge with all of you so you don't make the same mistakes that I am making. So if you are on your fitness journey, trust yourself, trust the process, be patient, be consistent, and make sure that you are making choices and building habits that are sustainable, because this is a lifelong journey, and there's never a point that you will get to where you're like, okay, I'm done. So make sure that you are building sustainable habits, and remember that the most important thing is that you just keep going. That is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and as usual, I will see you guys in my next video.